We continue now at the top of Daf Tesvav Amud Aleph Mesechet Shekalim. This is Shekalim Daf 15a. The Gemara here is in the middle of a brisa that is darshaning a pasuk, which is talking about the nesachim. And the brisa says, if we find that there's a distinction in the amount of nesachim between a keves, which is a male sheep just 1 year old, and an ayil, which is 2 years old, which is a ram, we find that the nesachim change. There's a greater amount for an ayil. So lekach nachluk bein nischei egel and nischei shor. So I might think you should make the same distinction between the nesachim of an egel, which is again like a young ox or a young cow, and a shor of an older shor. So you should make such a distinction. So the pasuk says, Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says, Kacha yeyasa l'shor ha'echad. Pasuk says this is what you should do for the one shor, meaning Magid comes to tell us, Shelo chilek bein nischei egel and nischei shor. We don't make any distinctions between nischei egel, again, a young shor and an older shor. Then it says Ola Ayil. The pasuk says you have the nesachim for the ram. Loma Nemar. Why does it have to say that? Shaya Bedin. Again, you might have thought as follows: In Matzanu Shechilek Ben Nischei Ben Shana LeNischei Ben Shanasayim. If we find that there's a distinction between an animal that's 1 year old and an animal that's 2 years old, in other words, you have a situation of a ram that is 2 years old is different than a keves or a younger ram that's 1 year old. Lekach nachluk Ben Nischei Shanasayim LeNischei Shalosh. So maybe when the ram turns to be 3 years old, we should also make a distinction. Talmud Lomar O Lo Ayil Ho'echad. That's what the pasuk means when it says Lo Ayil Ho'echad. Once it reaches the stage of Ayil, there's one halach of nesachim. Ola seba kevasim lama nemar. So why does it say the pasuk? It says for the seba kevasim that has a certain amount of nesachim. Shahaya bedin. Again, you might have learned as follows: In matzanu shachilak bein niskei keves leniskei ayil. If we make a distinction between a keves and an ayil, again, keves is just a younger version of an ayil. Lekach nachlok bein niskei kisba leniskei rachel. We should make a distinction between a kisba and a rachel. The same basic distinction. A kisba is a young female sheep, and a rachel is an older female sheep. It's 2 years old. So maybe we should make such a distinction, which is exactly the issue the Gemara was addressing on the previous Amud. Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says, Ola seba kavasim o beizim. It says Ola seba kavasim, rather, tells us that the halach is exactly the same. Doesn't make a difference if it's a kisba or a rachel. Oba izim lama nemar. Finally, the brisa says, why does it say Oba izim? Shahaya bedin. I might have learned in matzanu shachilak bein niskei keves leniskei ayil. If we make a distinction between a keves and an ayil, as we said before, lekach nachlok bein niskei gedil and niskei tayosh. Maybe we should make a similar distinction by the goats, depending on the age. Make a distinction between a gedi and a tayosh. Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says Oba izim. It says Oba izim, and what does that teach us? Hikish katan shebo izim lagadol shebetyashim. Doesn't matter if it's the youngest of the goats or the oldest of the tiyashim, the oldest of the goats. Either way, mazeh b'shloshes lugin, just like in one case it's 3 lug, avzeh b'shloshes lugin, so too in the other case it's 3 lug. So this brisa and the way we're understanding this pasuk shows us exactly what kind of nesachim are used for the various karbanos of different kinds of animals. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots, quoting the Mishnah of Hashem Hayom Kasav V'chulu on the Chosamos. The Mishnah said they had the day was written on the Chosamos, so if someone would find it, he couldn't be a Rama, he couldn't use it in sheet. Gemara says, what are you talking about? The guy finds it, and it says a certain day of the week, and he'll just come the next week on the same day. He'll be able to use it. So the Gemara says, Shem Mishmar Hayakasav Olav. It also wrote the name of the Mishmar, the name of the shift of Kohanim who are working that week, so it's going to be harder to cheat. The Gemara says, what do you mean? Mishmar. He'll just wait for that Mishmar to be working. So to that, the Gemara says, Shem Hayom, Shem Shabbos, Shem Chodesh, Hayakasav Alein. It said the day, it said the week, it said the month. Afilu Rotzi L'Zayig, Ein Motzi L'Zayig. Even if you wanted to pair it all up, even if you wanted to try to come in on the exact same type of day, he wouldn't be able to do so. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Shtei Lishkos Hayu B'Mikdash. There were 2 chambers in the base of Mikdash. Achas Lishkas Chashoyin, V'achas Lishkas HaKelim. One was called the Lishkas Chashoyin, the chamber of the Chashoyin. One was called the Lishkas HaKelim. Lishkas Chashoyin, Yirechet Nosin L'Socha B'Chashoy. In the Lishkas Chashoyin, people who feared sin, people who were holy people, would put money in there secretly. V'aniyim B'nei Tovim Misparnasim Mitocha, and good aniyim would come and they would take money from there b'chashoy in secret. It was a way of privately giving tzedakah. Lishkas HaKelim. What was the Lishkas HaKelim? Kol mishu misnadev kli. Anyone who wanted to donate a vessel to the Beis HaMikdash, Zorko L'Socha would throw the kli into the Lishkas HaKelim. V'achas l'shloshim yom, and once every 30 days, HaGizborn Poskin Osa, the Gizborn would open up the Lishka. V'chol kli shematzu bo tzorech leberek habayis manichin oso. Any kli that they could use, they could actually use that kli for the Beis HaMikdash. They would leave it and they would use it. V'hashar nimkarin, the other kelim would be sold. Udmein noflin leberek habayis, and the money that they they would get would be used for the repairs that were needed for the Beis HaMikdash. And the Gemara says, Rav Yaakov Baridi, Rav Yitzchak Bar Nachman, Rav Yaakov Baridi and Rav Yitzchak Bar Nachman, have a parnasim, they were people who collected the tzedakah. V'hava Yoavin Rav Chama, Ovoid Rav Yoshaya, dinar, they used to give the money over to Rav Chama, who was the father of Rav Yoshaya. V'hu Yoav Le Lechorn, and he would give the money to others. This was a way of distributing the money without embarrassing. It shouldn't be the same people collecting the money, are the people distributing the money. The Gemara says further, Rabbi Zechariah Chasonid Rabbi Levi. Rabbi Zechariah was the son-in-law of Rabbi Levi. Hayu hakol melizin olav. Everybody was slandering him. They were accusing him. Amrin delot tzarich. They said that he didn't really need the money. V'hu nasif, and he was taking money from tzedakah he didn't really need. Min dedmach, when he died, Bodkin, they checked after him. V'ashkechin davim maflig le'lechorn, and they found that he was actually giving the money to other people. He was acting as an intermediary and giving the money to aniyim. And the Gemara continues with a story. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa have a maflig mitzvah belelia. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa used to do this mitzvah of distributing the money, the tzedakah at night, again, in order to do it in a hidden fashion, not to embarrass the aniyim. Chadzman pagabe rabon deruchaya. One time, the master of the shadim, the master of the demons, met up with him. Amar Lei said to him, Lokein Alfin Rebbe, didn't you teach us lo sasik vul reyacha, that a person shouldn't be masik vul? In other words, the nighttime is the time that the shadim, that the demons are ruling, and now you're going ahead and doing your business at night when we're supposed to be in charge. So he responded, V'lo ken ksib, but doesn't it also say, Matan b'seis, or somebody who gives in a hidden fashion, yichva'af. That's a reference to the fact that the person will be given the power to destroy the shadim. V'hava mistafi minei, so the shade was afraid of him, v'yarak min kumay, and ran away from him. And the Gemara continues with another story. Amar Rabbi Yonah says, Ashrei nosein ladal in ksiv kan. Pasuk doesn't say fortunate is the one who gives to the poor. Ela ashrei maskil el dal. It talks about somebody who has seichel when he gives to the poor. Zeshu mistakel b'mitzvah hechlas osa. It refers to somebody who looks at the mitzvah carefully. What's the best way to do it? Keitzad hayu Rabbi Yonah. So the Gemara says, how did Rabbi Yonah himself do this mitzvah? Kishaya roa ani ben tovim shiard min achasav. Let's say he saw a poor person, a good person who ended up becoming poor. He originally had money. Haya omer lo. He would say to him, B'ni, my son, b'shvil sheshamati shenafla l'cha yerusha mimakam acher. I've heard that you're going to get an inheritance from somewhere. In the future, you're going to have money to pay me back. Tol viat poreya, so take the money, you'll pay me back. So min dehave Yosef have Amar Leis, and after he took the money, he said to him, Matani hiloch, this is going to be a gift to you. In other words, once he took the money as a loan, then he would say, forget it, you don't need to pay me back. Now the person wouldn't be embarrassed because he already had the money. He wouldn't have to take the money as a gift. And the Gemara continues, Chia Barada says as follows, Isav esovin biyomenon. He says there were some elder people who lived in our times, and they would do the following. If someone would give them money between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Tzoma Rabbah, the great fast, Havin Nosvin, then they would take the money. Min Basar Kain, but after Yom Kippur, Lo Havin Nosvin, they would not take any money from Tzedakah. Amrin, they said, Deshasan Gabani, they said, whatever we're going to make this year, the Parnas of this year, it's already declared. So there's no point in taking tzedakah. The only time we'll take tzedakah is between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when the judgment for the year is not yet sealed. And the Gemara continues, Nechemya ish Shichin paga bo Yerushalmi echad. Nechemya ish Shichin, he was once met by a certain Yerushalmi. Amar Lei said to him, Zakei imi choda tarnagos. He said, give me one tarnagos to eat. I'm very poor. I need some food. Amar Lei heilach to me say to kopad v'zavin kopad. He said, what do you need a tarnagola for? That's something that people who are wealthier eat. Take this little bit of money and buy some regular meat. V'yachil, so he ate it to miss and he died. He was a person who needed a particular kind of food, and this did not sit well with him, and he died. V'yatzavach v'yamar, so when Nechemya found out, Nechemya Shichin found out that he died from this meat, he screamed and he said, Bo v'siftu laharugo shel Nechemya. Come and let us eulogize the person who was killed by Nechemya, meaning he felt bad that he had inadvertently caused the death of this particular individual. Gemara continues with a similar story. Nachem Ishgamzu hayamolech ledoron lebeis chamav. Doron lebeis chamav. He was bringing a gift to the house of his father-in-law. Pagabo mukashchin echad. He met up with someone who was a mukashchin, who was in a difficult situation health-wise. Amar Lei said to him, Zakei imi mimadi iskaboch. He said, give me some food from that which you have. Amar Lei michzor chazar. So he said, 1 second, let me finish unloading over here. And chazar v'yashkechei mis. And then he turned around and he found that during the time he was trying to unload, he found that the person had died. And the Gemara continues, V'avamer l'kiblei nochem ishgamzu would say to himself, the eyes that looked at you didn't pay attention, they should go blind. Yade de lo pashtan mitan loch yiskatun. The hands that didn't stretch out to give you what you needed, they should be cut off. Raglaya de lo roatan lemetan loch. The legs that didn't run to give you yistavern, they should break. Umatse kain, and that's exactly what happened to Nachum Ish Gamzu. He lost his arms and his legs, and he went blind. Salak lagabe Rabbi Akiva went up to visit him. Amar le said to him, Oili shani roa osach bekach. Woe is to me that I see you in this state. Amar le, so Nachum Ish Gamzu said to Rabbi Akiva, Oili sheinani roa osach bekach. Woe is to me that I don't see you in such a state. Amar le, so Rabbi Akiva said to him, Ma atam mekaleleni. What are you cursing me for? You want to see me in such a state? Amar le, so Nachum Ish Gamzu said to Rabbi Akiva, Umat mevayit b'yisurin. Why are you kicking Yisurin? Why are you kicking things that are meant to give us Yisurin, to give us Musar? And the Gemara continues with a story. Rav Hoshia Rabbah have a Rabbi Debrechad Sagi Nahora. Rav Hoshia Rabbah, the Rebbe of one of his sons, was blind. And he was accustomed to eating with this particular blind person every day. He would eat together with him. There was one time when he had some guests. He wasn't able to eat with him that day. So in the evening he went to visit him. Amarle, and he said to him, Lo yichos mari olai, the master should not be angry at me. Begin to havali orchen yom adain, since I had some guests today. Damaris de lo livzu biyikra demari yom adain. And I was afraid if I would bring the guests along, maybe they would say something to insult your honor on this day. So begin Cain, for that reason, lo acholis mari yom adain. I did not eat with the master on this particular day. In other words, he explained to him why he didn't eat with him. Amar le, so the blind Rebbe said to Rav Hoshia Rabbah, Ataf, you've appeased me. Leman de mischame v'lo chame. You've appeased the person who can be seen but cannot see. Meaning, you've appeased me. I'm a blind person. I'm seen by others, but I can't see others. So therefore, dein de chame v'lo mischayim. The person who is able to see but cannot be seen, meaning God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yekabel f'yusach. He should also accept that which you say. He should give you a reward for your kindness. Amar le, so then Rav Hoshia Rabbah said to this individual, Hadam min Allah, where'd you learn such a blessing? Where'd you learn how to say a formulation of a bracha in that manner? Amar le said to him, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, I learned this from Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. To Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Ol Chad Esagi Nahor Lekarte, because Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, there was once a blind person who came to visit his city. Yosef le Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov l'Ramine. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov sat a little bit below him. D'Yemrun d'Ilule d'Havi bar Noshe Rabba lo Yosef le Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov l'Ramine. That way, people would say, if not for the fact that this is a great man, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov wouldn't sit beneath him. In other words, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov wanted to show that this blind person was a great person. So Avdin le Parnasa Dikar, so therefore the people decided we're going to give him some money, we'll support him, must be an important individual. Amar lon Mao, so he said to them, what's going on over here? Why are you giving me money? So Ma'hu Hachin, what is going on that you're giving me this money? Amrun le, so they said to him, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Yosef l'Raminach. It's because Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov sat beneath you. But Saloi Eloi Hadatzalusa, and then this particular blind individual said exactly this prayer. You've done a chesed, you've done a kindness for somebody who is seen but cannot see. So dain v'lochami, so dain dechami v'lo mischami. So the one who sees but cannot be seen, meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yigmol yitach chesed, should do chesed with you as well. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina of Rav Hoshia Rabbah, Rabbi Chama bar Chanina and Rav Hoshia have a metailen bilen kinishta de Lud. They were walking along the streets by the Batei Kinesios, by the shuls of Lud. Amar Rabbi Chama bar Chanina le Rav Hoshia. So Rabbi Chama bar Chanina said to Rav Hoshia, Kama mamon shiku avosai kain. Look how much money they've spent to make these beautiful shuls, these beautiful Batei Medrash. So Amar le, so he said back to him, Rav Hoshia said back to Rav Chama bar Chanina, Kama nefasho shiku avosecha kan. How many lives have been lost in this situation? Meaning, lo havi isbnei nosh de yalin boraisa. Aren't there people here who are learning Torah? It's better that you should have used the money to support those who are learning Torah rather than spend so much money to build nice buildings for them, to build nice shuls. The Gemara continues, Rabbi Avon, Avad Ilain Taraya. Rabbi Avon, he made these nice gates. Again, a similar kind of story. He made these gates for the Batei Medrash, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tesvav Amud Beis.